Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM, where we have a big show for you this time where we're talking more quality in terms of quantity. It is British Champions Day at Ascot, the big finale of the flat turf season. Group 1s are plenty, so we have all 6 races on the card that we're going to be looking ahead to. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to these races in the usual company of Dave Young and Andrew Mount. Now, if you will spare us this moment, we would like to indulge ourselves on last week's results because we had one of our best shows, well, I can certainly remember anyway. So we're just going to run through some of those results. So we had Pura Sangway winning at 2-1 for Dave, Ancient Wisdom winning at 2-1 as Dave's nap. We had Ali Anabi 6-1 place for Andrew. Montasib won at 10-1 for me as my nap. Hyper Focus 33-1 placed for Andrew. Love Warrior 6-1 again placed for Andrew. Certain Lad, well done guys for that. That was a nice prize in the end as well. 9-1 for both Andrew and for Dave. Silver Sword 22-1 placed for Andrew, and Sonagino 6-1 placed for Dave. So lads, very well done. Hopefully we can keep the ball rolling. Goodness knows what's going to happen at Ascot, what track we're even going to be on for the round course races. Of course, we'll have to discuss that and factor that into our preview as we record on Thursday afternoon. So do bear with us. By the time you watch this, things may have changed, but we're going to do our best for now anyway. Now, we begin with the Group 2 Long Distance Cup over 2 miles at 1:15. Kyprios heads away as the 11-8 favourite from the revelation of a horse in his last couple of runs, Trushan. Next in, so Andrew, would you like to kickstart us, please?
Yes, please. As you mentioned, we're on the round course, but we don't know which one. Is it going to be on the inner track, the one they use for the jumps, where they're saying it's good to soften places, or is it going to be on the outer track, the regular flat track, where it's going to be soft, maybe verging on heavy? We can only guess at this stage, which is most unsatisfactory, given this is supposedly Champions Day. I mean, I thought Trushan should be favourite over Kyprios in this race. When I looked at the race this morning, at declaration time, it was 5-4 Kyprios, 2's Trushan. Trushan has shortened up a little bit, I think, since then. But at least we know he's going to run. We're not going to have Alan King walking the course 10 minutes before racing like we normally do with this one. And the switch to forcing tactics seemed to suit him at Longchamp last time when he won on very quick ground. He's 2 from 2 since the wind operation. He's bidding for his 4th straight win in this race. And I thought, although Kyprios ran well in the Irish St. Ledger, finishing second to Eldorado, whatever you about to say, Eldorado Allen, Eldorado Austin.
Run him in it.
Jumped on the brain. I thought he still didn't exactly, confirm his, well-being after that, such a long break, and whether he wants to slog in the mud on his second start back after a near year's absence remains to be seen. So I thought Trushan, and I'd go for the exacta or computer straight forecast with Sweet William, who chased home Trushan at Doncaster last month. So yeah, Trushan should be favourite in my book, probably will be on the day if the rain keeps coming.
Certainly so, if the rain keeps coming. And as you say, for once, we don't have the will he, won't he about Trushan, so that's going to be nice to see. Trushan for Andrew, Dave, where were you looking?
Yeah, it's a pretty good race, this one. I like this every single year, but I always struggle to have any real conviction in it. We've had Stradivarius, Kew Gardens, and then Trushan. Obviously, he won it the last 3 times, Trushan, but they all won it as 4-year-olds. Sweet William, Andrews just touched on there, is the 4-year-old. Earlier on in the season, everyone was saying that he was the group horse in a handicap. He dotted up when there was really, really bad rain at Goodwood, wasn't there? So probably worth bearing in mind with all that going around that he will run his race regardless of what goes on. I think Andrew also touched on like Alan King there walking the course. We won't have so much of that with Trushan, but he has commented this week that he doesn't want it to change to the inner. He said that he would prefer it was on the course that it's been running, and Trushan's won 3 times, which I think is fairly obvious comment that's in there. It's a hard one. Kyprios would have needed the run last time out. He was like a little bit disappointed. He did improve for a break the season before. I think he picked up 4 RPR rating for that, like went up 4 points. But I don't know. He came here before once, didn't he, as well? And he was unruly in the stall and had to be taken out. So maybe the rain, the panic, all that stuff going on might wind him up a little bit. But it is a slight drop back in class with the fact that it's a Group 2, although we've got proven horses in it. So this is one of those where the status of the race might not match what's actually going to be in there. I do quite like Coltrane, and unfortunately with all the rain and everything that's going around, I am a tiny bit worried about the slower ground. But I thought he was really unlucky in this race 12 months ago. Didn't get the clearest of passages. I thought he should have, well, he would have won last year if he got a clear run. He was eased last time out at Doncaster when he was never travelling, but they didn't really cite it as the ground was the main problem last time. They just said that he wasn't really travelling. And when it was soft ground, I know Trushan won that day, you would think that they would specifically reference the ground if that's why they eased him, as opposed to saying that he wasn't travelling. Like they would have said he wasn't travelling because of the ground. And I've searched back through quotes and they never mention it's because of the ground. So I'll trust that the connections will do the right thing. And if they run the horse, he'll be able to do himself justice. I think he's a top price, about 8-1. So I'd be more confident tipping him each way at that price than I would be siding with either Kyprios or Trushan at the short prices. Do agree with Andrew though. Trushan's going to be supported. I think he's going to shorten up a bit, and then like I said, I can't really make enough of a case for either of those two at the front. So a bit of a naughty each way on Coltrane. We have got 8 runners though, so please do pay attention to the weather watch, non-runners, and all that sort of stuff. Because if the bookies shorten the places up, if we're going to 7 runners, then it might turn into a bit of a no bet. But I'll be back in Coltrane each way.
Coltrane each way. To be fair, it's probably a safe enough way to go with this. Now, just to confirm that, as I say, we record on Thursday afternoon, where you look at the last update that we got from Ascot, which was at 8:30 this morning. The straight track is soft, round course, soft, in a flat course, good to soft in places. Now, Alan King, if he has said that in the week that he doesn't want it to be moved to the inner, but he's also said that he's not afraid to run Trushan on good to soft. Well, hopefully there's not going to be that excuses, as we can clip out certain quotes that Trushan will hopefully still run at his race. And when you look at the weather forecast for the next couple of days at Ascot as well, I mean, there is heaps of rain on Friday. I mean, they're due a whole load. So yeah, and even into Saturday then itself, there's plenty enough rain lurking around. So I can't imagine even on the inner track, from what we know, it being all that quick, really, especially with the watering then earlier on. But interesting ways to play our first race. Again, do keep an eye on the weather and everything that's going to be changing. Right, next race, we are on to the second of the card. This is the Group 1 British Champions Sprint Stakes for the 3-year-olds and over 6 furlongs at 150. Kinross bidding to win this race for a second year running. He heads the betting. Dave, can Kinross do exactly that?
Yes. that's all I really need to say, isn't it? Like, he's going to be, there'll be those disgruntled punters, weren't there, from the run last time, where Frankie probably didn't cover himself in glory there. I think arguably he made himself look worse for the fact that he objected after. And I know in France, it used to get everything thrown out if they touched each other, even if they looked at each other. But I feel it was like a little bit more desperate than anything, because I think Frankie just got out-jocked by the winner. They just got in position in front of him, got first one on top of him, knew what he was doing. That is part of horse racing. And I think, like I say, I think Frankie was just annoyed at himself that he's just been outdone. He will not let that happen 2 times on the spin. So you get a reasonable sized field like this, where there's over 6 furlongs, where you could get traffic problems, all those sort of things. Frankie's going to be fully on alert to make sure that doesn't happen. As you say, bolted up in it 12 months ago. He was an eye catcher the year before when he was in defeat. We didn't get a bit of a clear passage. Like I say, I can't imagine that's going to happen again. So I think all those disgruntled punters who had multiples galore and Kinross cost them a fortune, the fact you can get 7-4, that price is correct at the time of recording, I reckon it'll probably stand up as well. I think you can get your money back here. So Kinross, I have no doubt, will win the Sprint Stakes.
Oh, yes, I like the confidence because I'm with you as well, where I kind of feel like I'm being a bit unoriginal. But 7-4, though, about Kinross for such a ground versatile horse. I'm just also hoping, sorry to butt in there, Andrew, that he's going to win this again. One of my favourite horses in training as well. The standout 7-furlong performer. For all that, as you say, Dave, he was beaten over that trip last time out in the foray. But I know the objection was there. No, did we really think it was going to be overturned with France's stewarding nowadays? You know, it's fallen in line with the rest of the world, basically. So for all that, I say that I do think he was pretty unlucky all the same. Maxime Guillon on the winner, Kalina, was a bit cheeky. It was just on the cusp, wasn't it, of what he can get away with. But still, though, I still think that Kinross ran a mighty race, dropped back 6 furlongs, won't inhibit him, as we know. And he sets a clear standard and not a vintage renewal of this race. So Kinross for Dave and I, Andrew, who are you siding with?
Kinross has got an obvious chance, but I think that's the key word, obvious, because his price is obvious as well. There's no real juice in it. 7-4, 13-8, whatever he is. I mean, last year, I mean, basically, we should point out the stalls are on the far side. We're on the straight course, of course. At the last Ascot meeting on the 6th and 7th of October, the stalls were stand side, and finally, the jockeys consistently explored the stand side strip, which the golden stick had suggested was pretty much the quickest place all season. But like sheep, they tend to follow the front runner, down the centre or wherever. So in this race last year, there was 18 runners, 11 stayed far side, 7 raced down the middle, and they included the winner, the runner-up, and the third. And the runner-up was Run to Freedom, 150 to 1. So draw-wise, it'll be fascinating. Dettori's slap bang in the middle on Kinross's stall, 8 of 15, so he's got options. The pace, from my brief glance, without actually having done a full pace map, is probably far side. Art Power in particular from stall 1, Swing Along from stall 3. So you'd imagine they might end up just going far side of centre in one big sheep-like heap. The obvious one for me was Vadream in terms of the going. Loves it muddy. 3 runs over 6 furlongs on officially soft or heavy going. 3 wins, gets his conditions her conditions, I can say, for the first time in a while. And she is the one where you're thinking, extra places hopefully. Maybe 4 places, very, very difficult indeed to keep out of the frame. Stall 2 is no disadvantage, and with say pacing stalls 1 and 3 as a hold-up performer on a track where such tactics are massively favoured, she's got a great chance. When she ran in the race last year, the ground was too quick for her. She finished 6th at 18 to 1, only beaten about 3 lengths. That was a huge effort. The others I like, as well as Vadream, obviously the favourite, but don't want to back her at the price. Sondrine. Stall 15 may or may not be helpful. Likes the mud. Another one who's run well in this race in the past, I think. Or certainly well at Ascot, because won the Albany Stakes, I think, didn't she?
Yeah.
2 years ago. Last time she had 6 furlongs Ascot on soft ground. And the one I'll put up as the big price crazy one is Magical Sunset. For Ammo Racing. Now, disappointed at Doncaster last time over 7, has left Richard Hanna 6, joined Dominic French Davis or whatever his Brazilian pseudonym is. This one hasn't had many opportunities at the trip on this sort of ground either, and has generally run well when getting these conditions. So I shall be backing Magical Sunset each way at sort of 66 is the dream each way, and I should be praying for rain, lots of rain for all of them. But I'll be throwing that pair in with Kinross and Sondrine in Tote Exotics as well.
Love it. The exotic ways to play, some plenty of soft ground performers in those, especially with Vadream and Sondrine for your nice little rhyme as well. But 66 to 1 about Magical Sunset, the outsider of the field. So
I'm a poet and I didn't know it, as Gordon Brown would say.
I know, it's a given, isn't it, that should be churned out afterwards. Should have got there first myself, to be honest with you. Right, another Group 1 now in the form of the British Champions Fillies and Mare Stakes for the 3-year-olds and over a mile 4 at 225. Free Wind bids to bounce back from her kind of nothingy run really in the Arc last time out. She's 130 favourite. Andrew, who wins it for you?
Yeah, I mean, this is generally gone to the head of the market recently. I mean, 7 of the last 8 winners were priced at 4 to 1 or 5 to 1 or shorter. But I didn't particularly like 2 of the front 3 in the betting, assuming we're going to have soft, heavy in places going, whichever course we're on, or even heavy going. Free Wind certainly would prefer it quicker, as would Time Lock, who was beaten by 14 lengths on heavy ground at Glorious Goodwood. Jackie O will like the ground and will shapes as though she's going to appreciate the step up to 1.5 miles for the first time. I thought she was the one of the front 3 in the betting, the 3 priced at single figure prices, who is best equipped to cope with the conditions. But I'm looking further down the market for the winner, despite the good record of those at shorter prices. Blue Stocking hasn't really won the races she should. But clearly hated Chester last time out under patient tactics behind Al Qureem. Al Qureem, of course, won here at Ascot next time to frank the form. The cheap pieces go on for the first time, so it's sort of 10 to 1 or thereabouts. I thought she could go well. Via Sistina, great record, loves coming from off the pace, likes soft ground. She'll run a usual solid race. And the French horse, one of the French horses, Rue Boissonade, Rue Boissonade. I'll give that a go. Didn't enjoy the fast ground. We're only fourth to Sea Silk Road in the Group 1 at Longchamp last time, and is a winner on sort of genuinely heavy ground in France. I think there was something about 17 seconds below standard. So in the hope and expectation that it's hock deep mud, I'll go for Rue Boissonade, number 14.
11, actually, I think it's number 11, isn't you?
Oh, sorry, I haven't refreshed. Well, sorry, Racing Post website. It keeps reverting to 5-day decks.
Oh, fine. I
no
just didn't want to.
Yeah, big
not
one.
that-
Yeah,
not
number
that-
11.
Not that the pronunciation didn't give it away automatically of what the horse was called, but I just wanted to confirm the definite number in case we've absolutely butchered the pronunciation. But it sounded really good to me, Andrew. So I was happy to let you pronounce that filly's name. 12 to 1 shot for the French Raider there. Dave.
Yeah, it's a nice looking race, to be fair. Frankie and the Gosdens won it last year with Emily Upjohn. They successfully teamed up in 2019 and 2016. Pointless me bringing that up, really, but there was 2 years between all of them. So the fact they won it last year probably won't win it again, will they? Free Wind, Andy's already touched on the ground, probably not particularly going to suit. Comfortably beaten here in the Hardwick Stakes as well. I know that was taken on the boys, so I'm away from her. Interestingly as well, John Gosden was on Nick Luck's daily podcast. I'm going to reference a couple of quotes that he said later on in terms of horses. Didn't even mention Free Wind and wasn't even asked. So I would say in the pecking order of horses that are going and fancied ones, she's not right up there. Jackie O was well beaten favourite in the Sandringham Stakes here, which I don't think's ideal. The 2 wins have come in a maiden and a Group 3, so I think this is a bit tougher. But she does get a bit of weight as well. And 3-year-olds have won 8 of the last 9, including the last 6 winners, I think. So it is a 3-year-old that I like, and I think I'm going to add another drink to the cabinet. So if we don't fancy a Nymphadora Thunderbear, I'm going to have myself a blue stocking. If it goes and wins this, right, it's going to make its way in there. Cheap pieces applications always, I don't know, 6 of some and half a dozen of another, isn't it? Sometimes it can be a positive, sometimes it might not be. She's often raced like a horse that might not be given 100% in the finish. Lots of like half-length second, and even when she wins a little bit further ahead. But I do think she's pretty genuine, and they haven't reached from that quickly. So I don't mind that they put the cheap pieces on. It is towards the back end of the season. I think they could be a good move. And I do think she's pretty good. She ran well here in the Ribblesdale under Frankie. And I think unless the cheap pieces like completely shut her off, for me, she looked like a proper banker to be at least placed, and especially with the fact that she might be a little bit quirky. So she 10 to 1 top price with 4 places available with most bookies. There is actually one paying 5 places. She looked an absolute no-brainer of a bet as well. And if she does manage to bet head in front, she's going in the drinks cabinet.
Everyone has just, I couldn't get over the image of Dave with his blue stockings, to be honest with you, from the start of that preview. So that's all I've had, just transpiring through my thoughts. So thanks for that, Dave. We appreciate that a lot. But hopefully then,
I'm
that
trying to get that image out of my head, but I think we've missed the key question about this race, which is Frankie and the Gosdens name of a band or the name of a weak comedy starring Jim Carrey?
Definitely the latter.
Yeah.
100% the latter. Oh god, the tangents we go off on this, dear goodness me. Right, I'm going to come back to my own selection. Jackie O in this for me, where I know the main questions about her will be, will she or won't she be getting the trip, will she appreciate it or not? However, you look back at Aidan O'Brien's 2 last winners of this race, Magical in 2018, Hydrangea in 2017. Now Magical had 1 start over 1 mile 4 prior to this in the Arc. And previous to that, she had only run over as far as 9 furlongs. Hydrangea had her first run over a mile 4 in this race as well. So I think that obviously Aidan O'Brien knows which filly he wants to extend out over a mile 4 in this race. Jackie O being by Galileo out of the 7 furlong miler dam. And as you said, Andrew, the way that she shapes in her races, I think this extra furlong, 2 furlongs should really improve her, if anything. And mostly shown in the Group 2 Blandford Stakes behind Lumiere Rock, when she was a real eye-catcher coming from further back than the winner, not getting a clear run through either. And I think that it just proved that she was unlucky when reversing that form with Lumiere Rock at Longchamp last time out in the Prix de l'Opera. She's a solid type, deserves to get ahead in front, ground won't be an issue, and she improved again last time out. Right, different ways to play that Group 1 as we move on to another Group 1, a fascinating one as well in the form of the Queen Elizabeth Stakes for the 3-year-old Nova over a mile at 3:05, otherwise known as the QE2, of course. Paddington has been well supported ever since the weather changed in the forecast, and that shouldn't really inconvenience him with the rain from what we know. But Dave, what is the play for you in the QE2? Poet.
Yeah, it looks a good race, doesn't it? Like Paddington was made into the poster boy earlier this season, wasn't he? And then they go and get him beat, which was semi-disappointing. But I would be happy enough to say that probably the ground was quick enough for him. We can use that as an excuse. I sort of question the form more than anything of what Paddington's actually done and who he's really beaten. So even the St. James Palace Stakes that he won here, not a single winner's come from that race. And obviously there was loads of horses that were behind there. He was beaten here at the track as well in a maiden. His Eclipse win in front of Emily Upjohn hasn't really been frank because she's not been very good since. She was in the Qatar Stakes at Goodwood, wasn't she? His Qatar Stakes win at Goodwood was the only one that has been franked. But that was by Innsbruck, who was all the way back. The only time he beat Innsbruck was when the ground was really slow. And that was the excuse for that. And that's why John Gosden hasn't declared Innsbruck in here. It's going to go straight to Santa Anita, I believe, now. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm lukewarm on Paddington, but you can see him go and win it. And it's one of these, I feel like because the ground's going the way that it is, people will be like, well, just go with me, just a solid, safe option. But we don't want to play it safe, not in every single race. I do like to hear her. I'm a little bit nervous that this is a new beast now taking on the boys. She looked good when she beat the elders, didn't she, over at Leopardstown? But I'm a tiny bit worried about her because I can knock her form a little bit as well. I don't think she's really beaten an awful lot in her race, but she can only beat what's in front of her, can't she? I think when they quicken in a race like this, that she might just lack that first turn of foot, and I think she can get up to the same speed as them. I just don't think she accelerates quite as quick. I do like her, but she's priced accordingly, and I've got concern that you can hear there. Nashua, I think, might be better at 10 furlongs, but the slow ground's going to help. I think she's probably going to end up being the bet. She's £4 better off for a beating of Paddington in the Juddmonte as well. And really, for me, there's no real reason why that would switch. I know the drop back in trip might be a reason why it can switch, but I think Nashua will just beat Paddington again. So if I think Nashua's going to finish in front of Paddington, and I think Paddington's the most obvious choice, then I'm probably saying I think Nashua could win. I'm not that confident though, right? John Gosden's comment with Nick Gluck on the Daily podcast earlier today was saying that she's in good order. She'll definitely run in the mile. She's got good class on soft ground from that July meet, and that was the foul mistakes at Newmarket. So he sounds fairly confident, but they did start their talk with Inspiral, so they were talking about her. So Nashua could have gone here, could have gone in the Champion Stakes after. Makes me feel a little bit, is she just fitting in for the gaps? And that's obviously not a massive positive. So long-winded way of saying I'm going to back Nashua each way. I think she's fairly safe, but yeah, I wouldn't be overly excited and confident in this one.
Nashua, though, for you at this stage for an each way play. Andrew.
Yeah, just to confirm, we are sponsored by BetMGM and not Nick Luck's daily podcast, which has probably got more mentions so far.
The second-rate podcast in comparison to this one, anyway.
Yeah, cracking races. Fascinating to see how Paddington goes. Been rested for a couple of months since that Juddmonte third to Mostahdaf. It's amazing, really, when you think back to, I think it was March of this year, when he's run against a horse I put up, Duke of Lega, in a handicap at Nace, 7 furlongs on heavy ground. I put the winner up at 33-1, went down by a length and three quarters. And since off a mark of 81 is now rated 74. Paddington was rated 97 that day, now rated 125. Incredible how their careers have gone in different directions. Yeah, obviously won't mind the ground, but I share Dave's reservations about him. I think he'll run well. He'll probably finish second or third. Nashua, I was interested in coming back in trip, given that she obviously bolted up in the Falmouth Stakes at Newmarket over a straight mile the last time she tried this trip. Probably wouldn't want it this soft. The key to her, though, is will she settle? Because we know how keen she can be, particularly in a sort of smallish field, straight track, sort of wide open spaces. The good thing for her backers is that I think she's drawn near Big Rock, who is likely to make the running, and should be able to get a turn to the race from that one. Chaldine as well should also put pace to the race, and should be able to sort of sit between those two and get cover. But the one I was going to throw a few quid at was Factor Cheval for France, and chased home Paddington at Goodwood. When not given the most inspired ride by Maxime Guillon. Only went down by a length but a bit that day, and because Mika Barcelona is on board this time, I think he's won this race before actually in the recent past, if memory serves. Might be talking cobblers. Maybe I'm thinking of the Champion Stakes, but I'd rather have him on my side. And yeah, the price is sort of 11 to 8 and 14 to 1. I thought I'll go for the French horse to reverse the form.
Andrew, the French nationalist on this week's show, so I like it a lot. He's sided with a couple of French horses now at decent prices as well. 14 to 1 looks a pretty good way of playing it for the French Patriot there in Midland Mount. Right, now up next though, after we've had a little bit of intrigue then, and that is the 345. I'll just find the race here. There you go. It is, of course, the Group 1 Champion Stakes for the 3-year-olds and over 10 furlongs at 345. Now, all could change in this market, evidently. Horizon Door clearly heads away as the 11-4 favourite. But, Andrew, I mean, what are we doing with this race on Thursday afternoon?
Taking on the French-trained favourite, I'm no longer a French nationalist. I'm a fully fledged Brexit supporter in this one. Now, you go back to that heavy ground, and again, French going descriptions we know have to be taken with a major pinch of salt. But if you look at the times at Chantilly on the 9th of May, it did seem to be genuinely on the deep side, and he was beaten 5 lengths by Big Rock. He's 4 from 4 since, so I'm just taking a chance that it's going to be very soft, hopefully heavy, and that's going to inconvenience him. King of Steel, I should say, was one of several British trained runners who made a complete Horlicks of the Leopardstown Champion Stakes card by not tuning into the obvious pace bias and not being on the front end. Only beaten a length in 4th under Kevin Stott. Frankie Dettori on board. Baybridge won this last year, of course. I was quite surprised that they went for the Arc, particularly on unsuitably fast ground, but he acquitted himself well in that race, finished 6th, as long as this doesn't come too soon. He's got a fantastic record in the spring and autumn. He's generally sort of one to avoid. The anti-Mr. Wacky, he's kind of one to avoid in the summer months. So I thought he had a good chance. And Mostahdaf, even though the ground's gone against him, he's had 8 runs either on his seasonal debuts or when arrested for 6 weeks thereafter. He's won all 8 of them. So, on that stat alone, I mean, he's by Frankel, who, of course, himself, won despite hating the ground on, at this meeting, of course. So, Mostahdaf's getting to the point now where I know the ground isn't ideal, but, 7 to 1 is too big. And Royal Rhyme is 4 from 4 when the word soft appears in the going description. So I thought Carl Burke's runner was the kind of horse you get popping up at a price in this race sometimes. We've had a few shocks over the years, often from a horse who's, sort of in good form, but coming up through the ranks, stepping up in class and, handles the going. And even Do By Honour, worth remembering that 2 years ago, he was only 6 to 1 for this race, got beaten 3/4 of a length. And he's now sort of 4 or 5 times that price, despite having won God knows how much in prize money in Australia since. So I had a very, very long shortlist. I was sort of, tempted by Baybridge over Mostahdaf, but I do give Royal Rhyme a squeak as well as, King of Steel, Do By Honour. Just too many to mention Baybridge for the purposes of this video, but I don't think I can have a bet given how many I like in the race.
There is a whole load there, but a good case is made for Baybridge for the purposes of this video at 9 to 2 at present. Dave, what were your thoughts?
I can definitely have a bet in this race. Whether I just get a refund for a non-runner or not is the question that's going to be coming out, though. So Andrew already touched on Mostahdaf, that fresh record, the fact that he's just probably, I mean, this is putting words in your mouth, so it's not that, but this is me quoting it. For me, he's the best horse in the race. He's run twice this season over 10 furlongs. I say this season, like more recently. I know he ran right at the beginning, but he run twice this season at 10 furlongs. Both times those RPRs were 128 and 127. Nothing in this race has got within a few pounds of those figures ever in their career. The ground might be a slight worry, right? Again, John Gosden said that he will walk the course Saturday morning, between 9:30 and 10, somewhere around there.
Don't mention that podcast again.
I won't. But he said that he'll walk the course at 9:30, 10. So basically, I'm pretty sure there will be an announcement on the morning of the day. And if he says that Mostahdaf will run, Mostahdaf's price is going to collapse, because I think I mean, it'd be brave to say that he warrants favouritism, but I think he probably does warrant favouritism. If John Gosden's not going to waste that opportunity of the freshness with this horse and wants to run him, there is no way in the world this horse should be a 7-1 poke. So that price is correct at the time of recording. I suspect it might be nibbling a little bit with the fact that the trainer has said that he's going to walk the course and make a decision, because that gives backers confidence in the fact that, you know, the trainer's not running them for the day out. It's not a social occasion. They're running them if they think they've got a chance. So a lot of that's going to have to be taken on trust this weekend with the horses. We're going to have to trust that the trainers will make the right choice. Like I say, he's 7-1. I think it's decent. I think if their connections are happy enough to run him, he'll do himself justice. I think in him doing himself justice, that means he will probably win this race. But he's
Dave, would you back him each way at that sort of price, or would you, if you could get maybe say 4 places, or maybe that's a bit optimistic, or would you think if he's not going to handle the ground, he will bomb out completely, he won't be in the 3?
Well, that's exactly it. So I would definitely back him each way, because I would trust that Connection wouldn't run him if he was going to bomb out. And I think that, if he was maybe like a 4 or 5-1 poke now, I'd still be tempted to back him. I probably wouldn't look so much at the each way then. But I know there's only a couple of points in there. But I'm recommending him here as an each way bet. I think he's just good value. He could, if they do run him, he could go off 7-2. We've got 9 runners at the minute as well. There are no extended places offered by the bookies at the moment. That might happen, but even if we get a non-runner, we're fairly safe with 3 places. So he's overpriced. Hopefully the price doesn't contract too much before the video goes out. But Mostahdaf, I think he'll win it if he runs.
I am so pleased that you both have taken this angle, because I put him up last week, even before the forecast completely changed in the week, and I got a fair amount of grief for it when the recording was put out a few days later. But even despite that, and I thought, oh goodness me, now that the forecast has changed, of course I want to be chucking him out of my reckoning. But as you say, you both made the point there that every horse has its price. He, for me, is the most talented horse in here still, and the fact that he's currently 7-1, where you will be taking the faith that John and Thady Gosden won't run him if it really is that desperate, or if they don't switch it to the inside track on the better ground. But the good to soft, even with the rain about on the inside, if they do declare to run him still run him on the day, I'm going to take that as a vote of confidence. And I know they might be slightly influenced by this being potentially a first trainers championship for John and Thady Gosden on the license, and of course Shadwell going for the leading owner as well. I won't tell you which podcast I picked that a bit of information up on, but it is going to be factored into it as well. And as you say, every horse has its price, and
the thing is, I mean, if you look at his record on officially soft or softer going, he's won twice at Sandown, albeit a lower level listed company. One of them was stayed on strongly. The other one was always doing enough. And then, of course, there was the Arc defeat over a trip he doesn't stay 1.5 miles. I know he won over 1.5 miles once, but that was in a small field at Kempton when he was odds on, and he's outclassed his opponents in conditions races. So again, Frankel wouldn't have liked the ground, but he still won at this meeting. It was his least sort of visually impressive performance, I guess. But he won, didn't he? And you weren't getting 7-1 that day.
No, you certainly weren't. Yeah, Frankel hated it and still managed to win this race. So hopefully one of his sons can do exactly that. Mostahdaf, especially at 7-1 as well, where everyone just wants to dismiss him purely because of the rain. But yeah, hopefully Callum will come to the fore. So I like that you have both boosted my confidence with Mostahdaf. Right, now we have the Balmoral. We sign off as well, final scheduled race. The only handicap on the card, the Balmoral Handicap for 3-year-olds and over a mile at 4.25, as wide open as you would expect. 6-1 the field. Dave, where did your pin land in this one?
Yeah, it definitely is a pin poking race, this one, isn't it? I struggled a bit with this one, if I'm honest with you, to make like a convincing case for anything. But the horse that just kept slapping me back in my face, which is I think the price will probably contract by the time the video goes out, is Dancing Magic. And it's been slapping me in the face since the middle of the week when Oisin Murphy was booked very early to ride this horse. First time in a handicap. It's also first time with not a weird combination, but a different combination. So he's been wearing the tongue tie before. I think this time the tongue tie is off, but it has had Dancing Magic has had a wind up. The colt, it's a bit strange. It's hard to make like a really strong case, but he's £8 down from the start of the season. Was 106 at the start of it. Newmarket, we've beaten 3 lengths, but again, I'll quote some RPRs. We did an RPR of 105. They ran him again after at York, where he was just poor. 68 was his RPR, so really underperformed. That's when they reached for the tongue tie. That's when they reached for the hood the first time. at Ascot when he was weighted with under Jim Crowley at 40-1, was only beaten 4 and a bit lengths, but managed to post an RPR of 104. That meant his mark stayed around about the same. He was then well beaten by Al-Azi, been running a Group 3 last time, did an RPR of 89, so a bit on a decline again, but is now officially rated 98, so £8 lower than when he started the season. This will also be the first time since September 2022, so a year ago now, his last 8 runs, that he's dropping back down in class as well. Everything else he's running has been a class 1. So you touched on the fact this is the first handicap of the day. This is the worst race of the day, but it's not a bad race, is it? We've got a decent handicap of this. And I just think there's enough that's interesting about him to say that the connections have clearly waited to run this horse in a handicap. I think they've waited for the mark to come down. It dropped from August. It was 101 last time, 98 now. And they did a similar thing last year. So they ran the horse in the summer. Then they were going to run him at the end of August. It was withdrawn, like a late withdrawal. Then they came back after a small break to race him again. And he seemed all right. He ended up bumping into August Rodin last year at one point as well and wasn't disgraced in behind that horse. So there's enough about him to suggest he's going to be popular, I think, first time in a handicap. He's 20-1 top price at the time of recording, but he's a general 16-1 shot. So again, the price might contract. So if he starts getting silly short, like that, a lot of joy for Willie Munnins last year. Like when I mentioned that on the podcast, it was 33s, goes off at 6-1. What, I mean, don't want to be rude, but what idiots are backing horses like that contract so much just because they get too excited? So don't get too excited about Dancing Magic. If it starts to go single figures, I think this is a sign of more confidence. I think it's just a bit of a potential wise guysy horse. But at 20-1 or 16-1 plus, I'm happy to take the risk each way. But it is a very punty one, so don't be risking all your money on this as the getting out stake. So Dancing Magic, tentative for me, but I think it's worth it at the price.
Top price 20, as you say, general 16, Dancing Magic, first time wind operation, first time hood as well, but do watch the market, says Dave. Andrew, the Balmoral for you.
Yeah, great bit of after timing. Don't forget we had an 80-1 winner of this race last year, tipped on this very podcast by yours truly, albeit tipped in my column at 33-1, and he took a massive walk in the betting. So he was trained by David Amara, who's won the race 3 times in the last 6 years. He's got 5 runners, well, 4.5 because Escobar is a reserve. Of one of those, Beneteau is very, very difficult to assess on his second run from the yard since leaving France. Got beaten 23 lengths on heavy ground at Haydock on his debut, but assuming that was needed, he does come out top on Racing Post ratings, so do just keep an eye on that one from stall 16. Barador I didn't like, stepping up from 6.5 furlong to a mile, seemed to struggle to stay this trip, went third in the Lincoln, beating 3 lengths. Sonny Liston, obvious chance. Second in the Royal Hunt Cup, winning the race on his flank behind the stablemate Jimi Hendrix. Lincoln winning Migration obviously goes well when fresh, likes the ground, semi-interesting. But the ones I was looking at, Awal, who did best of the prominent races in the Lincoln, a mile on this sort of ground is ideal for him. Latam in the first time cheek pieces. He's perhaps been a little bit disappointing, a couple of slow starts and meeting trouble in running. I thought the headgear could perhaps make the difference. I thought 20-1 about Willie Haggis train runner was a bit big. Vetiver is where I'm going though. Andrew Balding's filly, 3 runs on stiff tracks, 2 at Beverley, 1 at Carlisle, albeit a lower grade obviously, as those venues would suggest, but 3 wins. So on the assumption that soft ground and Ascot is going to suit her, I thought maybe 20-1 or thereabouts was big enough for her. Helm Rock was also of interest for the Cubulas. They've obviously won a big handicap this autumn already in Cambridgeshire. And although this one was well beaten at Haydock last time, sort of ridden patiently, or more patiently than the 4 who beat her, and those tactics aren't ideal. Helm Rock's going to suit him. He's a son of Pivotal, so obviously likes this sort of ground, assuming it's going to be soft on the straight track here. And yeah, Blue for You might go well out of the O'Mara contingent. Only 7th over 7 furlongs here last time out, but did 3rd best of those to race on the far side when you want it to be drawn high. So I was sort of Vetiver, Helm Rock, Latam, Awal, over the rest of them. But it's stick your pin in and hope for the best.
There's your shortlist anyway. But as Andrew said, we should. I need to make a note of these big price races, handicaps that you've tipped the winner up in previous years. Because yeah, Shalir 80-1 was a right shout. I'm going for Blue for You, so I'm pleased that you gave him a bit of a nod there as one of the David O'Mara contingent. A big price. He's actually been pushed out to 25-1 now. Now he obviously hasn't had the ideal season, but I'm hoping it will all come together for him here. A winner at York in July off of a mark of 99, so £3 lower than he's actually carrying here, which does seem £2 wrong at the weights. But last time out, I thought it was a really fair effort from him. Andrew, you just touched upon that. 7th in the 7 furlong Heritage Handicap at Ascot, which always comes 2 weeks prior to Champions Day, and is the race that has produced the winner of the Balmoral in 3 of the last 5 renewals of this race. Now, Blue for You, Roscollin, Ropey Guess, Escobar all finished in a heap in that particular 7 furlong Heritage Handicap. Roscollin being the only one of those that raced on the favoured near side. So Blue for You, he's running off the same mark, and he ran in the Balmoral last year off of this mark, but only 15th, also finishing 7th in the aforementioned Heritage Handicap over 7 furlongs prior to that. But he ran a much better race in it this time around in the first time tongue tie. That's refitted, so I'm expecting the same level of improvement again here, and he's too big a price for me to ignore. So Blue for You for me, right?
Yeah, quick, interesting to say about the recent run angle. All the winners of the Balmoral have had a recent outing 25 days or less since their last start. So there's quite a few near the head of the market who don't fall into that category. Like Docklands, the favourite, 78 days, and Migration 167 days.
Okay, well, I've got 14 days in for Blue for You, so ideal. Right, that was our final race on Ascot's cards, so all there is left for me to do is to get your naps. So, Andrew, I'll go back to you, please, for your nap.
Okay.
Buying himself time. Dave, would you like me to go to you first?
Yeah, come to me. This is easy. This is probably obvious for everybody out there anyway, I would imagine, but like I would say that this would be most people's idea of a nap. Kinross will absolutely get redemption for all those punters from last time out. In the 150, Kinross wins. I mean, I know he's about the right sort of price, given the fact that it can be like a little bit of a tricky, trappy race with a reasonable sized field in there. But I think Kinross is still a good price at 7-4 at the time of recording. I think that price will hold up. Kinross wins.
Oh, right. I'll let you have Kinross. I was tempted to go with Kinross myself and I'll let you have Kinross then, Dave. I'll be delighted if he wins regardless anyway. And I'll go Jackie O then in the 225 in the champion at Fillies and Mares. Andrew, who's
I'm going to stick my ample chest out and take on Dave and go Vadream in the sprint.
Oh, this is teed it up beautifully for us. Vadream in the testing conditions, taking on Dave. A head-to-head battle then between the lads. Right, we have so much to look forward to, of course, on Saturday. Do keep an eye on what track they're going to be running the round course races on. Of course, we have tried to caveat that in our previews of those particular races. But that's everything from us on this week's show. Big thank you to Dave and to Andrew for all of their hard work as per usual. A big thank you to our sponsors, BetMGM. Big thank you to you for watching. Enjoy the weekend action, and we'll speak to you again next week.